Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka even. So I think it's also underlining the fact that there is a huge bond or a bridge of people-to-people contact that underlines the relationship between India and Qatar. And of course, Qatar is the top two suppliers of LNG to India, and at a time when India's energy mix is getting rebalanced because of what many perceive is likely the conclusion of the Russia-Ukraine war, and also pressure from the United States to buy more American-made oil and gas. This is a significant visit at the very highest level involving the Emir of Qatar, who is on an official visit to India for 2 days. Let's move on to the other big story that we're tracking here on the broadcast. Elon Musk's revelations on US aid to India have sent ripples across the political spectrum. BJP has hit out at the Congress, saying that this is blatant foreign interference and that the Congress enabled this when it was in power. The Congress in its response has said that the controversy has nothing to do with the party in 2012, and if at all it had taken money, then how come they did not end up winning the 2014 election? But fact of the matter is this, that the DOGE revelations have shown that there was a dubious $21 million US aid funding that came into India for allegedly turning out the voter turnout, as in to increase voter turnout and voter participation, all of this being directly linked to India's electoral process. And that has clearly sparked concern on multiple fronts. One, of course, who did this money go to? Who were the beneficiaries of this money? And more importantly, what kind of data about Indian voters was shared with these NGOs? The Indian government believes there is enough evidence to establish a money trail, but only a thorough investigation can get to the bottom of it all. Let's first try and understand how these funds were actually allegedly routed, because it was not directly from USAID to the government of India or to the Election Commission of India. This was routed through a bunch of non-governmental organizations. So the USAID, which is the United States Agency for International Development, which has now been put on hold by the Trump administration, it is seemingly the humanitarian arm of the United States government. The State Department used to fend out this money. It's meant to extend overseas development assistance to countries around the world. Now, scrutiny of websites as well as open internet sources suggests that these funds were initially routed to what is called the Consortium for Elections and Political Processes Strengthening, CEPS. CEPS is a consortium of NGOs that was founded in 1995, and CEPS then subsequently used three other NGOs, namely the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, which is IFES, the International Republican Institute, IRI, and the National Democratic Institute, the NDI, all three which were used by CEPS to route money that CEPS had received from the US State Department, from USAID. These three NGOs, the IFES, the Republican Institute, and the Democrat Institute, then routed these funds through various other NGOs worldwide. The IFES and the NDI have collaborated with various NGOs, even signed a memorandum of understanding with the Election Commission of India back in 2012. Now, concerns are being raised if crucial voter data, which is only available with the Election Commission of India, was shared with IFES as well as these other NGOs that were funded by IFES. In fact, the Chief Election Commissioner, who was the CEC at that time in 2012, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, has outright dismissed these claims made by the US Department of Government Efficiency. The UPA-era CEC has put out a series of statements on Twitter, and I quote from them. He says, "The report in a section of the media about an MOU by the ECI in 2012, when I was the Chief Election Commissioner, for funding of certain $1 million by a US agency for raising voter turnout figures in India, do not have an iota of fact." He said there was an MOU that with the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, IFES, in 2012, just like the ones that the EC has had with many other agencies and election management bodies to facilitate training for various countries. Now, he said there was no financing, not even a promise of financing involved in the MOU. Qureshi added further that the MOU, in fact, made it clear in black and white terms that there would be no financial or legal obligations of any kind on either side, and that any mention of funds in connection with this MOU were completely false and malicious. But it's led to a huge political back and forth, a war of words between the Congress and the BJP.
परंतु ये कौन सी शक्तियां हैं जो भारत में इस प्रकार चुनावी प्रक्रिया को प्रभावित करने, परिवर्तित करने या उसके अंदर कोई समस्या उत्पन्न करने के हेतु से आर्थिक अनुदान पाती हुई दिखाई पड़ रही थी, ये बहुत गहरा संदेह हमारे मन में उत्पन्न होता है। देश के ऊपर आघात करने के एजेंडा बहुत साफ है कि विदेशी शक्तियों के लिए जो भारत के विरोधी शक्तियां हैं, उनके लिए कांग्रेस की मोहब्बत की दुकान है, जिसमें मोहब्बत सोरस से भी है, मोहब्बत चाइना से भी है, और भारत के अंदर एक दूसरे से लड़ाने का विधान है।
All right, so this controversy around DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, revealing that as much as $21 million had been given to India through a consortium of NGOs called CEPS, the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, that was founded in 1995. Of course, this has now become a political sort of war of words between the BJP and the Congress. The BJP is alleging that this amounts to foreign election interference. The Congress saying that this happened between the ECI and the said consortium of NGOs. Let's try and dig a little deeper into this. I'm now going to go straight across to the member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal. Dr. Sanyal, thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Why do you believe that there has to be an inquiry into these $21 million that came through CEPS, and CEPS then eventually gave it to what is called the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, or IFES, with whom the Election Commission of India had an MOU dating back to 2012?
See, this is not just about that particular payment. You see, first of all, why does a US agency or any foreign agency have to be involved in trying to get involved in our internal policies, our internal politics, whether or not we want to vote, don't want to vote? That's surely between us. What has it got to do with a foreign agency? Secondly, this is not the only place this is happening. This is a part of a much wider network. That's why please don't only look at this 21 million. I have been writing now for many years about the huge amounts of funds, which is not just USAID, but Open Society and many other foundations, Rockefeller, Ford and so on, who have been operating in India or influencing things in India using all kinds of funding. So I will give you a few examples and then you will understand how this works. So let's talk about stuff which is outside India first, and then I will come to how many of these agencies work inside the government. Some of the work that may do even is good, okay, but then they begin to influence all kinds of other things as well. So let me give you one example.
Okay.
You have been seeing for the last few years a large number of these suddenly global indices of various kinds, democracy index, freedom index, all of these kinds of index. Have you noticed this or not?
Yes.
And in all of them, systematically India does badly and ridiculously badly. So there's one, for example, press freedom index, in which we do even worse than Afghanistan. And we'll routinely be not even in the top 100 democracies in the world in many of these rankings. Mm-hmm. So the point is, earlier we used to just say that maybe they are misguided, maybe there is they don't understand, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if you dig a little bit deep, you will find that all of these bodies, whether it's Varieties of Freedom Institute in Stockholm or Freedom House in the US, etc., they are funded by the same agencies, the same Open Society, same USAID, same Ford, Rockefeller, etc. Those 4-5 agencies fund all of them. And all of them have a certain language, a certain pitch they make. And it's not by chance. And it's also not harmless, because all of this has real world implications. This ends up in our sovereign ratings. This is the data, these global rankings are then used to train artificial intelligence, which then marks the default responses of various AI systems. So all of this was being done for many years, and I have been writing about this, how these indices are all absolutely fraudulent. Okay. They are based on dubious methodologies, they are based on all kinds of so-called surveys and opinions of people who they don't tell us who those people are. So I have been fighting about this, writing paper after paper, newspaper article after article about this. And USAID is very much part of that agenda, and funding of this system of creating certain narratives and creating the data, layered system of data for this. So this 21 million Whatever they have used for, I don't know.
Okay.
But that we'll find out hopefully soon. But let me tell you that all of this is funded by the same group cabal of donors running a certain agenda. And similar things are done within India as well.
But let me come back to the moot point, which is that if all of these societies and these foundations are operating in India with a set narrative, a set agenda, their contention is they are operating within the law of the land, that they follow the FCRA guidelines, they follow FEMA, FERA, etc. Why then should the government not take action? If you believe that they are violating the law of the land, should the government not start an inquiry and take action against these institutions?
They should, but I'm just pointing out to you, first of all, that action is being taken. This FCRA business, everybody has been complaining the last few years, all the foreign funded NGOs have been complaining about it or not. And media by and large has been saying, no, are bechara, how is Indian government persecuting all these FCRA walas? This is why it's being done, because I'm sure there are some good fellows also getting unfortunately stuck because of it. But can you see why we were so concerned about it and why we were trying to do something about it? The same thing happened, by the way, when USAID was kicked out of the National Family Health Surveys. There was a big fuss about, why have they removed these people? There were certain well-known researchers who were connected to it. They were removed from various positions. Again, there was a lot of fuss in the media about why is the government persecuting these people and so on. So it's not, let me tell you, the media has so far never been in favor of putting control over all of this. It's only now that thanks to Elon Musk and DOGE, and that now the data is much more clearly available to you and to me for that matter, that many of these things can be said openly. Before that, it were, this was just conjecture. Because after all, when I was first saying that, why are they taking control of our medical data, the main thing was, at least somebody is doing it. Kar rahe hain, maybe, why are you trying to hide the problems of India's medical system? No, we are not. We just don't think it's a good idea for a foreign agency to take control of it.
So do you believe that the government now, basis whatever DOGE has revealed, should order an inquiry to find out, who this money was routed to and where this money was spent? This 21 million?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should. I think not just this 21 million, there are many other things that will come out now. This is just the first round. It just happened to be that by sheer unintended consequence of US policies, we have much of this has come into the light. Now maybe people can dig further. And by the way, as I keep telling you, this is not just about USAID. USAID is just one peg in a wider ecosystem of funding, which are all interconnected, and all of which operate in this neighborhood, not just in India. It operates in Bangladesh, and one must look into what role it may have played in the coup there. They operate certainly in Nepal, where they do a lot of things, and many other neighboring countries where many odd things they have been funding. Why are they funding atheism in Nepal? What is the benefit to US taxpayer for that?
All right, we'll leave it at that. Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal, thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18 with your thoughts and perspective into this big story. The bombshell that's been dropped by Elon Musk and DOGE, revealing that among other things, $21 million was routed through SEPs into IFES into India for what they call, quote unquote, increasing the voter turnout. All right, let's go straight across to our political face-off on this story about this allegedly $21 million coming to an agency called IFES, a consortium of NGOs, which then got into an MOU with the Election Commission of India. The BJP is calling this blatant election interference. The Congress, of course, has refuted those charges. Let me go across to Tom Vadakan, national spokesperson of the BJP, and Sanjay Jha, author, now joining us. Tom, first things first. So this goes all the way back to 2012. These three NGOs, the IFES, the International Republican Institute and the National Democratic Institute, allegedly routed $21 million, which they got from USAID, into India for, quote unquote, increasing the voter turnout. If this has been going on for so long, why has the government not instituted an inquiry? Why did it take DOGE and Elon Musk to put this out in the public domain?
See, we have always been maintaining there is this international interference that's been happening. Now, there was no smoking gun evidence to establish any links at that juncture. But when the US government has given information, and that too real-time information, and the connect to two NGOs which connected to the Election Commission. Let me connect it to the Election Commission. The Election Commissioner admits that there was an MOU. If there was an MOU signed, what was the give and take? Was the purpose of the NGO trying to connect to the Election Commission part of the package for money received? Apparently, the Election Commissioner says there was no payment.
Yeah, he says you go through the MOU, there's no financial transactions involved.
So, what I'm trying to say is that, look, if the connect is for the services rendered to get an MOU signed by the Election Commission, data apparently was given to this NGO. So in exchange to that, they have received payments. We are on hot trail on this payment circuit, and we won't spare anybody.
So, Sanjay Jha, are you not the least bit curious? Now, the government's contention is we couldn't have gone ahead and had a unilateral investigation unless from the US government side there was some kind of evidence or some kind of direction that, look, USAID has given so much money routed through all of these NGOs. Now that has come, the government is saying that we will institute an inquiry. Are you not curious to know where this $21 million went?
Zaka, good evening. I mean, first and foremost, I can tell you the BJP is on a disaster recovery plan from Mr. Modi after his extremely huge fiasco in Washington, where he went for his trip to meet with his good friend Donald Trump. He's come back with nothing for India and has actually been an embarrassment for our country. And I'll tell you why Tom and the BJP is spreading fake news on your show. First and foremost, S.Y. Qureshi, a distinguished chief election commissioner, has already trashed this, and he was the CEC, saying there is absolutely no question of any funding or anything coming to India or to the election commission. Point number 3, this has been cancelled by, Elon Musk, who now heads the DOGE project, which means no money really came in. I mean, this is the fundamental point that the BJP will try and obfuscate. Point number 4, assuming hypothetically, Zaka, that USAID was trying to talk about voter turnout, you think any government agency will talk about a voter turnout in favor of a ruling party? This may be, even if they had an intention, it would be about increasing voter participation, which is an ongoing process in every election, including what we had in 2024. But here's the point I want Tom Vadakan to answer, my good friend Tom. Tom, USAID has given India in the last 4 years when Mr. Modi has been Prime Minister $650 million in various kinds of projects, including Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Can you answer, if USAID has been doing political interference, as you call it, I would say this is blatant external influence that you are party to. I'm going to accuse you, the BJP, of being hand in glove with the US government for various seedy and sleazy projects in India.
So, Tom, the USAID has given money through WHO for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It has given money to Urban Planning Ministry, Urban Development Ministry. There's a whole bunch of things that USAID has routed money through various NGOs. The Health and Family Survey, which is undertaken by the Health Ministry, significant amount of money has been routed through various NGOs from the USAID. Why haven't you stopped any of that in all of these years? That's what Sanjay Jha is asking, and the Congress is also asking.
Well, Sanjay has raised a lot of questions. I think Sanjay is one of those standalone person in the Congress party who believes that Prime Minister Modi returned empty-handed. There is a gentleman called Shashi Tharoor. I think we are all good friends. We have known each other. Shashi Tharoor doesn't believe that. That is Sashi's view, not mine. That is Shashi Tharoor's view, and this is Sanjay Jha's view. So let's keep it at that. What has come to India, we are grateful that the Prime Minister has been able to bring in trade and double trade, which has happened. And now as to the question of why have we been receiving funds, they were for welfare schemes. They were not for regime change. Okay. This is basically directed for regime change. And this is what you call, voter turnout. funds for voter turnout as an aphorism for regime change. That is where the whole issue has come up. So let's not confuse apples and oranges and say US aid has been functional. They were functional because they were doing certain things which was productive and which was audited.
Okay.
Which was audited. I repeat, this is no NGO kind of business where you give a job to the election commission for which you receive commission.
So Sanjay, isn't there a qualitative difference, Sanjay, between, doing this for welfare schemes, whether it is, family survey, health and welfare survey, whether it is, building toilets, etc. That's one part of it. But why would the Election Commission of India need lessons in increasing voter turnout from US-based NGOs? Last time I checked, the US has lesser voter turnout than Indian election voter turnouts.
Well, I'm not the US aid. I'm not going to answer that for the US aid. I'm not their counsel. But let me tell you how preposterous is Tom's argument, number one. What he's basically telling you is that if I know there is an international entity that is trying to destabilize India, I will put that aside as long as they give me money for something else. I mean, I haven't heard anything more absurd than that. I mean, I would judge a character by their motive on any aspect that affects my country's reputation. Therefore, I'm going to tell you that the BJP is compromised. Tom is in the wrong party. He needs to come back to the Congress, no matter what his electoral fortunes are. But the bottom line, Zaka, is this.
Okay.
That end of day, the BJP at this point of time is trying very hard to divert attention from Mahakumbh, from the railway accident, from the panic in the economy, from Mr. Modi's failed trip, where just one point, Zaka, just one point. Can you imagine Donald Trump rubbished BRICS, where India is a founding country, and Mr. Modi did not say a word? I mean, how humiliating was that experience for all the members of BRICS?
Okay. All right. I want to request both Sanjay and Tom to stay on with us because Sanjay said that, this is to cover up from other stories, not to cover the stampede at the railway station, not to cover what's been happening over Mahakumbh. In fact, we're going to do exactly that. So let's shift focus to the next story that we're focusing here on Brass Tacks. Just getting a piece of breaking news before we go to the other stories. Pakistan, there seems to be something big brewing in Pakistan. Is it possibly on the verge of a collapse? In Balochistan, for example, in 5 out of the 7 districts there's a big claim that's been made by Maulana Fazlur Rahman inside the Pakistan National Assembly that at least 5 out of the 7 districts in Balochistan are ready to announce liberation. Maulana Fazlur Rahman has revealed this in the National Assembly in Pakistan. He claims that the Pakistan government and the security establishment, the security forces, have lost their writ in large parts of Balochistan province. And he also has claimed in the National Assembly that if today Balochistan and a majority of the Balochistan province were to declare independence away from Pakistan, then the United Nations would accept it, the United States would accept it, major leading powers in the world would accept it, and this, he says, would be the beginning of the collapse of Pakistan as we know it. Let's listen in to what Maulana Fazlur Rahman had to say in the National Assembly. He's a very, very senior politician, has been around from the 1980s, was one of the key members of the People's Democratic Movement, which was a combination of all the political parties that came together and overthrew Imran Khan. He's a member of the current National Assembly, a key part of the PDM. Let's listen into what he had to say in the National Assembly, and then we'll get our Siddhant Mishra also to join in.
वो इलाके कि जो पुलिस तो खाली कर चुकी थी लेकिन फौज भी खाली कर चुकी है और जहां पर जंग हो और पुलिस भी ना हो और फौज भी ना हो तो वो एरिया किसके कब्जे में होगा और दिल पे हाथ रखकर मुझे कहना पड़ता है इंतहाई दर्द दिल के साथ कहना पड़ता है कि इस वक्त बलूचिस्तान के 5 से 7 अजला इस पोजीशन में हैं कि अगर वो आज़ादी का ऐलान कर दें तो अगले दिन अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा में उनकी दरख्वास्त को कबूल कर लिया जाएगा और पाकिस्तान को तक़सीम तस्वुर किया जाएगा कहां खड़े हैं हम लोग
All right, this is a dire warning by a key member of the ruling elite in Pakistan. Siddhant has more details on this. There was, of course, the big assassination or a big hit that happened on a key member there in Balochistan. But be that as it may, this the fact that Maulana Fazlur Rahman Siddhant is saying that 5 out of 7 districts in Balochistan province could actually secede. What a big revelation that is, and put that into context for our viewers, please.
Well, that's right, Zaka. They're calling it a 1971 movement, and this revelation has not been made before some media channel or in an interview. He has made it in a National Assembly. Perhaps it again signifies that how serious the situation is in Balochistan. Maybe ISI and army, maybe they are trying really hard to hide it. But Fazlur Rahman, who is a senior politician, as you rightly said, has made this revelation in the House that 5 to 7 districts are in a position to announce liberation, Zaka. And if Balochistan's district announces liberation, United Nations will accept their independence and Pakistan will fall. He's calling it a 1971 movement. And also, he said that the army, Zaka, this is something very serious, that the army and the police forces have vacated these districts. So, these districts are completely in control of the rebel forces, the freedom fighters. And if this is the situation on ground, perhaps we could expect in another 24 to 48 hours, we could hear something big from the Balochistan area of Pakistan. And Zaka, we on our channel, and in fact Manoj Gupta, have extensively been reporting about how army, with the help of army and the guns, Pakistan keep check on the entire Baloch movement, because they feel that the Baloch movement is the biggest threat to their national integrity. And now situation has become such that the police and the army have been withdrawn from those areas. Perhaps next 24 to 48 hours are going to be very, very crucial.
All right, Siddhant, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us. Tragedy struck at the New Delhi railway station on Saturday night. There were horrific videos which came out showing a massive crowd of passengers struggling to board an overcrowded train that was headed out to Prayagraj just moments before this deadly stampede that claimed 18 lives. The stampede broke out at the station between 9 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. on Saturday night. But 48 hours later, there seems to be doubts over what exactly caused this stampede. In fact, the unreserved ticketing system, which is used to book general class tickets, shows that there were 2,500 plus more tickets than usual that were booked on Saturday between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., which means unreserved, unconfirmed tickets, more than 2,500 were added. There were additional bookings in those 2 hours leading up to the 9 o'clock hour when this accident happened. Was this possibly one of the reasons of the stampede, or was it a last-minute decision or announcement to change the platform for the train that was meant to go to Prayagraj? Now, 3 different agencies are giving 3 different versions as to what exactly happened on that fateful night. They're emerging on exactly what the sequence of events were. The railway DCP, the version that's been put forth by him, claims that there was an overwhelming crowd which led to the tragic stampede. In contrast, the railway CPRO is saying that the stampede was triggered by a passenger who slipped on the stairs and then he or she fell onto the platform, and that created panic and that caused the stampede. The Delhi police, which is investigating this matter, has highlighted the presence of the Prayagraj Express, which was supposed to go to Prayagraj, being overcrowded. This was at platform 14. On 15 as well as in 16, there were 2 other trains which had been delayed. So those crowds had also gathered around that same area, which led to overcrowding and eventually the accident, the terrible stampede. The railway DCP believes that a platform change contributed to the last-minute confusion. The CPRO, though, says that there was no platform change. Eyewitnesses on the ground, though, beg to differ. They say that there was a last-minute change, an announcement that was made, which resulted in all this chaos. The Delhi police also say that confusion among passengers arose because it was unclear there were conflicting train names and platform assignments at the last minute. According to the railway DCP, delays in the arrival of 2 trains contributed to the surge in crowds. In contrast, the CPRO says the surge is unconfirmed. Ticket sales, as many as 1,500 on an hourly basis, led to an influx of passengers. The Delhi police says that there was erratic passenger movement between platforms 14, 15 and 16. Let's listen in to some views before we go across back to our political guests.
बिहार जा रहे थे वो गाड़ी से हाँ तो वो बोले कि 12 नंबर प्लेटफार्म पर ट्रेन आएगा तो हम लोग वो लोग खड़े थे 12 नंबर पर, एक बाइक कह दिया कि हाँ 14 नंबर पर आएगा, 16 नंबर पर आएगा, उसमें उनको मौत हो गया।
भीड़ ज्यादा हो गई थी, भीड़ के कारण ये थोड़ा हुआ भगदड़ सी है। इधर से शिवगंगा गई थी, उधर मगध लगी थी, उसके चक्कर में पब्लिक उधर इधर जाने लगी, उसी के बीच में ये सब कुछ हुआ। ज्यादा पब्लिक थी ना, पब्लिक की वजह से पुल पे जो लोग गिर गए थे वो उठ नहीं पाए।
एक तो मैनेजमेंट ठीक नहीं था, प्रशासन कम था, भीड़ ज्यादा थी, और जो गाड़ी 12 नंबर पे बोली जा रही थी वो तुरंत 16 नंबर पे बोल दी। पहले 12 नंबर पे भीड़ पहुंच चुकी थी, फिर उल्टी 16 नंबर पे गाड़ी लगाई गई तो उल्टे सुलटे बंदे हो गए, तो नीचे बच्चे जवान बहुत मरे।
ट्रेन में चढ़ते वक्त इतना भीड़ था कि इतना धक्के मुक्के हो रहे थे कि चढ़ने में भी परेशानी हो रही थी।
इतनी भीड़ मैंने सन 81 से रेलवे में भर्ती हूँ, यहाँ पर कुली का काम कर रहा हूँ, मैंने ऐसी भीड़ कभी जिंदगी में नहीं देखी। तो ये अनसा हुआ, प्रयागराज स्पेशल भेज रहे थे ये लोग, उसको 12 नंबर से चेंज 16 नंबर कर दिया, तो 12 नंबर की पब्लिक 16 पे आई, और बाहर की पब्लिक जब 16 पे जाने लगी तो एकदम बच गई पब्लिक। एस्केलेटर और जीने पे पब्लिक गिर गई। कुली भाइयों को ठीक पड़ा, कुली भाई दौड़ के आए, पूरे कुली भाइयों ने रास्ता ब्लॉक किया, ब्लॉक करके पब्लिक को रोक के और लाश निकाली, हमने खुद ने एम्बुलेंस में लोड की।
And now, post this terrible stampede, the Railways Ministry says that there will be a complete overhaul of crowd control measures and protocols across the country as a fallout to this stampede that happened at the New Delhi railway station. Special holding areas with color-coded sections and pathways for the movement of crowd will be set up at 60 stations, which usually see overcrowding because of the Mahakumbh. The crisis management training to railway officials will now be part of a 6-month campaign. Color-coded enclosures and significant improvements to enhance passenger safety will also be taken to streamline the movement of passengers. Arrows and separators will guide the passengers both in the bridges as well as on the platforms. Crowd monitoring using CCTV cameras will also be done. These CCTV cameras will monitor people who are sitting on foot-over bridges as well and loitering around, and not necessarily people who are coming there to board trains. To prevent another tragedy, 35 stations will be monitored by a central war room as well.
हुआ ये कि कल 15 तारीख को रात में लगभग 9 बजे के आसपास प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 14 पर नई दिल्ली रेलवे स्टेशन के प्रयागराज एक्सप्रेस आने वाली थी, तो एक बड़ी संख्या में लोग प्रयागराज एक्सप्रेस का इंतजार कर रहे थे, प्रतीक्षा कर रहे थे, जिनको प्रयागराज जाना था। काफ़ी संख्या में लोगों को देखते हुए, लोगों की बढ़ी हुई संख्या को देखते हुए, टिकट सेल के डेटा देखते हुए हम लोगों ने ट्रेन ऑन डिमांड एक अनाउंस की, रेलवे ने ट्रेन ऑन डिमांड अनाउंस की प्रयागराज के लिए। उसका अनाउंसमेंट हुआ 12 नंबर से चलने का। तो जैसे ही वो ट्रेन अनाउंस हुई, एक अच्छी खासी संख्या में लोग 14 नंबर प्लेटफॉर्म से, 14-15 नंबर प्लेटफॉर्म से फुट ओवर ब्रिज और सीढ़ियों का प्रयोग करके 12 नंबर की तरफ जाने लगे। इसी दौरान ये इवेंट हुआ और ये अनफॉर्चुनेट घटना हुई, बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण घटना हुई।
All right, let me go back to Tom and to Sanjay. Tom, shouldn't there be some accountability? Shouldn't some heads roll for what happened? I mean, the last minute confusion, the announcement of change of platforms, the excess unreserved tickets that got booked in the 2-hour period leading up to the tragedy that happened between 9 and 9:20 p.m. Shouldn't there be some accountability for this?
Zakir, first, this is one of the worst accidents that one has seen in the city of Delhi. We have our condolences with the families of the bereaved and we pray for the recovery of those injured. The government apparently has given about 10 lakhs for those who deceased and 50,000. Well, this I don't think can validate life lost. There has been a human error. Let's accept it. Now there is a 2-member committee, high-level committee that is going into it. So wherever the mistakes have been committed, course correction should be done, and heads will definitely roll. If there is a human error in place, that will happen, and that is something that is being investigated. So let us not make it weaponize accidents and claim that, you come out like vultures. I mean, the bodies have not been buried, the bodies have not been removed from the morgues, and there are politicians out in the station, out asking for, the heads of the minister, the government, what have you. The government is there functional to do their duty. Let them do their duty. The committee is there to find out who is guilty. And once that is identified, sure action will follow. Under Modi ji, nothing will be spared. Those guilty. Sanjay, you may not like it. This doesn't happen in your party.
So Sanjay, the fact is that according to the Prayagraj district administration, more than 50 crore people have taken the dip at the Sangam already. 53 crore people have taken. That's a huge number. That is, more than the population of entire continents. Yes, terrible stampedes have happened. The one that happened at the Delhi station, the one that happened, of course, in Prayagraj itself on Mauni Amavasya. But ultimately, that can't take away from the fact that 53 crore people, and by the end of this month, when it concludes, this period of a month and a half, it might even touch 60 crores. Who knows?
I am not going to comment on any figure of this government. If it's true, good. If it's not true, whatever. The truth is that I heard my friend Tom. I think I'm sorry, Tom, but your condolence was not just token, it didn't even look genuine. But I'm not surprised that's the way the BJP is. But it's disgusting and shameful, Zaka, that the BJP will tom-tom about 50 crore or whatever attending the Mahakumbh, but they will have scant respect for the 50 people who died, 50 or little more or less, in the tragedies that we have seen in Mahakumbh and now in the railway station in Delhi. I mean, I'll tell you what's shocking. What's shocking is that you have a railway minister who's still holding his job. I mean, does he have a moral backbone? Try, Tom, to tell the 50 families today, some of them may be breadwinners, women and children. Try telling them that 50 crore people came for the Mahakumbh. Try telling them that. Try telling them to take consolation from it. And how absolutely morally sickening is that? And I'll tell you something, Zaka. What makes me absolutely infuriated, and I have such contempt for a government that tries to hide data on casualties and deaths. Everybody's seen that. We saw the opacity. I've seen reports where journalists were threatened not to talk about the accident. You had the BJP IT cell, some character there, a big manufacturer of fake news, suddenly sending pictures of a spotless, clean railway station. I mean, for these guys, death is just a number. And until we understand, this is the same party in government, hasn't given you the actual death numbers, even in COVID. What do you expect of them?
Tom, quick response. I mean, there have been one too many accidents. We saw what happened in Balasore in 2023. We saw what happened in Bengal in 2024, the Sialda Express. The government's own data in Parliament suggests there were, in 24-25, 30 train accidents because of derailments, collisions, fires, which led to 17 deaths and 81 injuries. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't be talking about Viksit Bharat if you can't get rail safety right.
They want a bullet train.
You have given the statistics of rail accidents, but let me also tell you that these railway accidents, some of them are self-inflicted by certain interested groups, and there is evidence to it. And there is evidence to it, Sanjay. Don't try to evade this issue.
Don't spread conspiracy theories and fake news.
No, this is not conspiracy theory. This, my dear friend, is part of regime change. It's part of your regime change campaign. Let's get to the bottom of it. I have not been saying this earlier because I respected certain level of morality amongst your people. But no, you have used human tragedy. You have used human tragedy to garner vote. It's a shameless party, and the India Alliance and the Congress Party has done this.
All right, Sanjay, final word, 30 seconds. I got to wrap up. I got to go to the next segment after this. 30
Zaka,
seconds.
I will only through your channel appeal to your viewers, whichever parties they support or ideologies they stand for or whatever their belief in life is about their future. But I hope the people of India get a little more demanding of the entire political ecosystem. They are being taken for a ride. I think the ordinary citizen of this country is getting a raw deal. They deserve much better than to go to a railway station and never return home. I think until the people of this country, the civil society begin to expect more, demand more, and hold politicians accountable, Tom Wadekar will get away with his rubbish and rhetoric.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to both Sanjay Jha and to Tom Wadekar. We'll see what comes of the remainder of this stampede, this terrible stampede that happened in the New Delhi railway station on Saturday night. So Rahul Gandhi's mentor and Congress's overseas chief, Sam Pitroda, is at it again, completely turning a blind eye to the Galwan clashes and all the other skirmishes that we've seen along the line of actual control. Mr. Pitroda has said that China is not our enemy and that there's no threat to India from China whatsoever, but it's India, on the other hand, that has had a confrontational approach since the beginning. Now, while that has triggered a political fight, Sam Pitroda was not the only one criticized for towing a pro-China line today, dismissing India's drone industry. Rahul Gandhi himself showcased a China-made drone in a video that he put out on his Twitter handle. President of the Drone Federation of India says it is quite discomforting for him and the entire drone community in the country to see someone with a significant responsibility in a significant position saying that no one understands drone technology in India. The BJP pointed to the different comments made by both Rahul Gandhi and Sam Pitroda in the recent past where they are seemingly favoring China.
I don't know what is the threat from China. I think there is always this thing blown out of, at times, proportion because US has the habit of defining an enemy. I think time has come for all of us to really network nations and not have confrontation. Our attitude is that of confrontation from day one. I think we need to change that pattern. To assume that China is the enemy from day one, it's just not fair, not just to China, but to anybody.
And our Chief of Army Staff has said that the Chinese are inside our territory. This is a fact. The reason China is inside our territory is important. The reason China is sitting inside this country is because Make in India has failed. The reason China is sitting inside this country is because India is refusing to produce. And I'm worried that India is going to give up this revolution to the Chinese once again.
This recent controversy has armed the BJP to dredge up several instances from the past where they point to what they claim is the Congress's love for China. Now, back in 2008, the Congress and the Communist Party of China had reportedly signed a pact to put in place a mechanism that would help regular high-level exchanges between them. Soon after, the then Congress chief Sonia Gandhi had arrived in Beijing with her family for the Olympics in 2008 for the inaugural ceremony. A decade later, Rahul Gandhi met with the Chinese envoy to India, at that time Luo Jiahui, even as tensions escalated at the line of actual control. Now, what made it worse is that the Congress initially denied any such meeting, only to then give in to the furor, and Rahul Gandhi himself admitted to the meeting. In 2018, Rahul Gandhi met with two Chinese ministers during his visit to Kailash Mansarovar and discussed job creation. Officials in the Ministry of External Affairs have said that Rahul Gandhi, who was an MP at that time, was on a private visit, and if he met any Chinese minister during that visit, it was not arranged by the mission. In 2022, the centre cancelled the FCRA license of Rajiv Gandhi Foundation after the Union Home Minister claimed that between 2005 and 2007, the Gandhi family-led organisation, the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, had received funds to the tune of 1.35 crores from the Chinese embassy. Then in 2023, the BJP raked up a New York Times report which claimed that NewsClick, which is an Indian news organisation, was among Chinese propaganda outlets funded by an American tech mogul. The BJP has also alleged that Congress, China and NewsClick are part of the same umbilical cord.
राहुल गांधी एक ऐसे एजेंट हैं जो हिंदुस्तान के इंटरेस्ट के बारे में कम बात करते हैं, चीन या जॉर्ज सोरोस के इंटरेस्ट के बारे में ज्यादा बात करते हैं।
सैम पित्रोदा मेंटर है राहुल गांधी के। राहुल गांधी फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस पे बोल चुके हैं कि हमें चाइना से सीखना चाहिए, हमें चाइना से ये करना चाहिए। राहुल गांधी तो चाइना की पीपल्स लिबरेशन पार्टी के साथ गुप्त समझौता भी साइन कर चुके हैं, और तो छोड़ दीजिए। राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन चाइना में चाइना से पैसे भी ले चुका है, और पीछे और चलिए, उनके ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर नेहरू जी ने तो पूरी अक्साई चीन दे दी उठा के, अपनी यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल की भारत की सीट दे दी चाइना को। तो चाइना और राहुल गांधी और कांग्रेस पार्टी का याराना बहुत पुराना है.
Meanwhile, residents of the national capital woke up to strong tremors as a 4-magnitude earthquake hit Delhi in the early morning hours. Many recalled hearing a loud sound when the earthquake hit, and the tremors lasted for about 35 seconds or so. Many people rushed out of their homes in panic after experiencing the strong tremors. Videos of people standing outside their homes and fans shaking during this earthquake went viral on social media. Delhi is considered to be in seismic zone 4 in the seismic zoning map of India, making it the second highest range in the country. Notably, the capital is located around 250 kilometers from the seismically active Himalayan collision zone, and it experiences shaking frequently from far and near field earthquakes. Now, it started with tremors in Delhi at about 5:35 a.m. this morning, but it was not limited to the national capital alone. A 4-magnitude earthquake also hit Siwan district in Bihar at about 8:02 a.m. The epicenter was about 10 kilometers in depth, more than what was witnessed in Delhi. In Delhi, it was about 5 kilometers deep. Just 13 minutes later, at 8:15 a.m., a second earthquake of 4.7 magnitude struck the Puri district in Odisha. The tremor, though intense, was also did not result in any casualties. Another earthquake of magnitude 2.3 hit Sikkim's Lachung at about 8:13 a.m. at a depth of 5 kilometers, causing panic and concern across several North Indian states.
हल्का मेरे को लगा कि मैं सो रहा था, मैं थोड़ा हल्का हिल रहा हूँ. मेरे को लगा कि ये ज्यादा नहीं 2 सेकंड 2.5 सेकंड के आसपास हुआ होगा. इतना
खड़ा था जी उस टाइम पे, वो कुछ काम कर रहा था, तेज झटका सा महसूस हुआ, फिर जल्दी जल्दी कमरे से निकला, तब तक वो शांत हो चुका था. 2 सेकंड का था कम से कम.
Yeah, morning by 5:35 I think so. We felt the shaking. Some around four points.
We felt the earthquake around early morning in the 5:30, and we came out of the room. So, and we planned to see the gate today. We came here. So, we may feel another earthquake or something like that. So, we came here.
ये जो है आज तेज झटके जो सुबह में हुआ है 5:36:55 में, ये आपका झील पार्क जो धौला कुआं के पास है वहीं पर हुआ है. और ये अर्थक्वेक का मैग्नीट्यूड 6 था. इसका डेप्थ जो है जमीन के नीचे 5 किलोमीटर था. इसको सैलो अर्थक्वेक बोलते हैं, काफी सैलो अर्थक्वेक बोलते हैं. और ये अर्थक्वेक जब हुआ, सेस्मिक एनर्जी जब सरफेस पर आया तो एयर से इसका जो है मिश्रण होकर थोड़ा वाइब्रेटिव साउंड भी लोगों ने फील किया है. और इसका इंटेंसिटी जो है MMI स्केल पर इंटेंसिटी जो शेकिंग के डिग्री ऑफ शेकिंग है वो 4 रहा. ये अर्थक्वेक का जो है ये प्रॉन जोन में ही हुआ है. इसका अपना इंसिटू प्रॉपर्टी मटेरियल हेट्रोजेनिटी के चलते हुआ है. कोई यहाँ पर प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स और प्लेट इंटरेक्शंस के चलते नहीं हुआ है.
बात जब Elon Musk's DOGE has claimed that $21 million was paid to Indian NGOs, and this was a money that was routed via US aid. This has set off a huge political controversy here in India, with the Bharatiya Janata Party accusing then UPA government of trying to subvert the democratic process. But the big question is, how was this money really routed to India? Scrutiny of websites of NGOs that work in India in the field of elections, NGOs who are associated with CEPPS, suggests that money reached CEPPS from US aid and then was routed to these NGOs. CEPPS, or the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, was a consortium that was founded back in 1995. 3 NGOs, International Foundation for Electoral Systems or IFES, International Republican Institute or IRI, and National Democratic Institute NDI were part of CEPPS. CEPPS depended on IFES or the International Foundation for Electoral System and the other 2, International Republican Institute and National Democratic Institute, to fund various NGOs worldwide. IFES and NDI have collaborated with various NGOs and even signed an MOU with Election Commission of India. So they were in a way the arm of CEPPS, IFES and NDI were collaborating and taking forward whatever role the consortium wanted to play here in India. Now, former Election Commissioner of India, S.Y. Qureshi, confirmed through a social media post that in 2012, the Election Commission of India did sign a memorandum of understanding with IFES for training of election officials. He clarified that no financial transaction were part of this MOU. However, concerns are being raised if crucial election-related data available with the Election Commission of India was shared with IFES and the NGOs that they were funding, and if this data was then misused. Bharatiya Janata Party's Amit Malviya has alleged that this was an attempt at voter subversion. BJP has also claimed that IFES was linked to Soros's Open Society Foundation. NDI allegedly routed funds to another NGO, the Asian Network for Free Election, or ANFREL, which is also under scanner. Now, if you go through the audit reports, what is important to highlight here is that the websites of both USAID as well as the consortium, which is CEPPS, both their websites have been defunct ever since this controversy arose. So there's no way to go back to their websites and check how the funding was done, what was the source of the fund, where was this fund ultimately diverted to, who were the beneficiaries. So one has to depend on the websites of other associated NGOs, some of whom we just listed out, and other open source data available from various sites of the US government. Now, if you scrutinize all of them and look at the previous audit reports of these organizations, it seems that since 2008, close to $4 billion have been routed from USAID to CEPPS, and this money has then been forwarded or routed to other NGOs. Indian government is yet to order an inquiry to flag off the corrupt practices as are being alleged, or the money laundering allegations, but the revelation has definitely added yet another layer of intrigue as far as the process of electioneering in India is concerned. Rahul Gandhi-led opposition has been raising questions about conduct of elections, be it in Maharashtra or in Delhi, whether the total number of voters in the voter list, have there been any addition or deletion, wrongful addition or deletion from these lists. And now BJP is questioning in turn if this attempt to subvert elections have been on since 2012. Of course, Congress has hit back and said that it's in 2014 it was the Bharatiya Janata Party government which came to power. So where does Congress, being any beneficiary, where does that question really arise? So we'll have to wait and see if the Indian government orders any kind of inquiry. If there is any violation of the foreign funding, then of course the main legal framework will be FCRA, the Foreign Contributions Regulation Act. These NGOs who have been allegedly receiving money from the consortium, NGOs which have worked with other NGOs here, two of them have been flagged off. We are not naming them, but these are big ticket NGOs known to have some credibility as far as election numbers are concerned, democratic reforms are concerned. It seems that money was routed to them as well. So since 2012, this alleged attempt to subvert is what BJP alleges. We have reasons to believe that since 2008, USAID was routing this money to various Indian organizations, and since their websites are defunct, we'll have to wait and see if an inquiry is ordered by Indian government to get to the bottom of all the allegations being made. Elon Musk's DOGE has claimed that $21 million was paid to Indian NGOs, and this was a money that was routed via USAID. This has set off a huge political controversy here in India, with the Bharatiya Janata Party accusing then UPA government of trying to subvert the democratic process. But the big question is, how was this money really routed to?